Y'all know the pressure that a coach has whenever they're coming in to take over the reins of a big program, especially one night like Nebraska. Today we're talking about Scott Frost, and the reality of it is he's in trouble. The athletic directors, the board, and especially the fans are really starting to turn on him. You know, it's kind of crazy to see, Drew, because he did have a lot of success at UCF, and whenever he was first hired at Nebraska, Nebraska fans were ecstatic because they thought, you know, he was going to be the future of their program. So what's the main difference for you when comparing his success at UCF to his recent failures, we'll call it, at Nebraska?
You know, it's really hard to tell what goes on behind the scenes at these Power 5 schools. We have no idea, you know, what the coaching meetings are like. We have no idea if the coaches get along. There is no telling what could be the main issue and root cause for Scott Frost. Absolute failure as a head coach at Nebraska. And I'm going to go ahead and rule out the talent part. I was going to kind of talk about that a little bit, but I looked more in depth into it. Nebraska, I mean, they're top 25, you know, in team talent. It's not like they don't have talented players. They might not have enough talent to go compete with an Alabama or Georgia or something along those lines, but Scott Frost has enough talent to win at least 6 or 7 games in the Big Ten.
They're an exponentially better team than Northwestern talent-wise, too.
And,
That's
and
no
getting into that, the whole Northwestern loss, that might be the worst loss in Scott Frost's career. I mean, his firing is inevitable at this point. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I just don't see a scenario where they're turning it around after that. Nebraska's lost a lot of games over the past few years. Everyone knows that. But, you know, you look at years like last year, Nebraska went 3-9. Northwestern was a team they beat 56-7. This wasn't even a game I was looking at this year. You know, I thought Nebraska was really going to come in this year and turn it around. I'll flip a lot of those games that they lost by a touchdown or less around and get the win. Looking at their schedule now, you lose to Northwestern. I don't know how many more wins you have this season. I mean, you play Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, Oklahoma, Purdue, Minnesota, Rutgers. They could very well lose all these games again. Now, I think by that point, if they get to the Rutgers game and Scott Frost has lost, you know, every single Big Ten matchup at that point, he's gone. And, you know, there's probably going to be a little bit more room to talk about that later. I kind of want to get your opinions on that Northwestern game, though. That was just an absolute failure of a job by Scott Frost. Multiple calls that just didn't make sense. And I know you watched the game. What do you think was really the turning point in that Northwestern game? Because Nebraska had a lead. They had a comfortable lead at one point. I mean, go ahead and tell us your thoughts of what happened. And
I think there was 2 or 3 points in the game where momentum shifted dramatically, and you're right, Wisconsin held the lead for the majority of, or Nebraska rather, held the lead for the majority of the game. But I think anyone who watched the game would say the turning point was whenever they elected to do an onside kick at the beginning of the third quarter when they were up 11 points. Look at the reaction. I encourage anyone to go back and look at the reaction of the defensive players after Northwestern scored following that onside kick. Everyone had their heads down, shaking their head. That took the energy straight out of that defense. And after that, Northwestern was doing whatever they wanted on offense, running the ball up and down Nebraska's defense. And you just can't have that whenever there's such a talent gap with Nebraska's defense and Northwestern's offense. Now, I know Northwestern has, you know, a couple of good running backs and whatnot, but talent-wise, like you were saying, Nebraska is far more talented than Northwestern, and there is no reason to lose this game. And one other thing I'll talk about, another big shifting point in momentum was Nebraska's quarterback made a lot of bad decisions. He threw a couple balls that should have been picked off, and then he threw a couple interceptions that changed the course of the game as well. But decision making, it has to improve from both the Nebraska quarterback and the Nebraska coaches, because that is what lost them this game.
Yeah, and jumping into the onside kick, supposedly from what I've heard, is Nebraska was preparing for a certain look that Northwestern gives on their kick return team. And I think what I've heard is Scott Frost and the special teams coach and the kicker were all in agreement that if Northwestern comes out in that look at any point in the game, they're going to go for the onside kick. Here's my thing, though. You go up by 2 possessions. Momentum is on your side. You literally are probably one good stop away from really just flipping that game around and opening the door and just start going all out on Northwestern. I mean, Northwestern, after, you know, you go down 2 scores, it's deflating. It's demoralizing. Under no circumstance should an onside kick have been called. Even if they came out in that look, Scott Frost should have pulled his kicker to the side and was like, look, we're up 2 scores, momentum is on our side. I don't care what look they come out in, don't do the onside kick.
Yeah,
And
100%. They have a kill
yep,
call. There's a kill call. It's just kill, kill, kill
yep,
sometimes, but you have to be able to make that call. You're right.
yeah, and coaches wear headsets for a reason. So in an event where maybe the special teams coach told the kicker to do it, there's not a decision that goes by or a decision that is made that doesn't go through the head coach. The head coach knows every single play that's called on offense, defense, and special teams. And supposedly, like I said, I heard something about the special teams coach told him to do it. Well, Scott Frost has got to have that veto authority. I mean, that's your job as a head
Yeah.
coach. You got to be able to agree with the decision and go forward with it, or disagree and let it know. Let your coaches know, like, no, we're not going to do that.
And can I say one more thing
Yeah, yeah.
before we continue? I'm super glad you mentioned being up two possessions and going to the onside kick, because it's kind of like that decision shows you the difference between the old philosophy of football and the new philosophy of football. Because the way you and me were brought up playing, and maybe this is just how it is in the Southeastern Conference, it's a battle of field position and defense. And when you're up two scores, like you said, you kick it deep. You make them drive 80 yards of the field versus them starting on your 40. And like you said, being down two possessions is a complete momentum killer. And then all of a sudden, like a golden egg just rolls into your lap and you get the onside kick. You get perfect field position, and that changes the whole course of the game. If they would have just kicked it deep and played the field position battle, it could have been a completely different outcome.
And Scott Frost, he's an experienced head coach. He's been doing this for a very long time, regardless of his how successful he's been at Nebraska or not. I mean, by this point in his coaching career, he's got to know the appropriate time to do an onside kick, the appropriate time to maybe do a fake punt. You don't do this stuff when you're up two scores, and failures like that is the main reason Nebraska fans are just wanting him gone. They want him gone. And it's kind of sad to see, because Scott Frost, Nebraska's his alma mater. This is home, and he had all the support in the world going here. And I don't know what really is the root cause, like I said earlier, of his failures here. But I don't think they're gonna last much longer, because I think he's out of there after this year. I mean, I don't even see a scenario where he finishes out this season.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll tell you one more thing that caught my eye whenever I was watching them. Nebraska has a receiver, Trey Palmer, transfer from LSU, and they've talked all throughout the offseason of how they were going to get him involved and get him touches in the offense. And watching that game, it looked like Scott Frost had no dadgum clue how to get a receiver the ball. I mean, seriously, it looked like I was watching a game from the 1980s. Jet sweeps, orbit motions, end arounds, a bunch of screens. I'm not really dogging on the screens, but you have to figure out how to get this guy open. And it's too obvious whenever he's going in motion the sixth time and he's gotten it the other five. Like, you got to help the players, man. It's about scheme, too. That's another thing that I'm looking at watching this game, and I'm just kind of wondering what's going on. Like, I love Scott Frost's scheme and what he does with unbalanced sets and the run game and stuff, but you got to adapt, and you got to figure out how to get your other skill position players the ball. And watching that game, he could not do that, and that is a big red flag in the direction that this game is going.
So let me ask you this. 31-28, the season might be even over before week 1. Do you think Scott Frost has lost his players already for this season?
It's a tough question, because honestly, it relies on their thoughts about last year. If they think that we were 4 plays away from winning 4 games, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going in with that mentality, then they could be thinking, look, we dropped the first game, but we know how good we can be. We know the same thing last year. We just got to do it. Or on the flip side, it could be, man, this head coach took us to 3-9 last year. It's his fault we lost all those games. We should have been in better positions in those games. And now he's doing the same thing this season, making coaching mistakes, and that's going to cause us to go 3-9 again, or 2-10. They could even drop the Georgia Southern game. You and I were talking about it before we record, but I think it's like burn the boats, man. Like this Nebraska team, you're going to have to rebuild, because, like you said, you go from beating them 56-7 last year to dropping this game, a game they should have won. There is no excuse for Nebraska to lose that game. And Northwestern did whatever they wanted to those last 2 possessions of the game. On the ground, they got dominated, talking about Nebraska's defense, and that cannot happen.
Yeah, giving up 500 yards to Northwestern, I mean, just 500 yards to any team is very alarming. To Northwestern is a different thing. They play North Dakota, Georgia Southern next couple weeks, and then they play Oklahoma. I think that Oklahoma game is when we're really gonna see what the rest of the season is gonna go for Nebraska. And Nebraska could very well still be that one big win away from just flipping the switch. I don't think that's, not a possibility. I'm not saying that Scott Frost is just going to completely, and his team's just going to completely lay down for the rest of the year, and that's why I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it. But the odds are so stacked against him at this point. Like I said, Oklahoma, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, Rutgers, Purdue, all of those teams can beat Nebraska this year. And even Indiana, Minnesota, Nebraska could go 2-10. And if that's the case, Nebraska's program is dead. It's a dead program.
Yeah. But that's why they brought Scott Frost. Because whenever you're coming into a conference like this, the schedule is going to be tough. You're going to be playing against the Michigans and the Ohio States. Like, you're going to be playing against these top programs. That's why they brought Scott Frost on, because he had experience winning and undefeated seasons, and like you mentioned, he's an alumni, gets the people back interested and involved in the Nebraska program. But with all those things being said, and Nebraska being a historically great program, they're not going to tolerate this. That's why they brought Scott Frost on, because they said, we want change and we want it quickly. And he's not bringing it, so I think that they're going to have to find another solution that might involve blowing up this whole program.
And last thing I kind of wanted to talk about briefly, in the event that Scott Frost is fired, what coach is Nebraska going to be able to pull in? You see what their past records have looked like. They don't exactly have the greatest talent. I'm not thinking of any successful Power 5 coaches they're going to be able to bring in. I'm assuming they're going to have to try to go after, a group of 5 coach. And I don't know, other than maybe Luke Fickell, what Nebraska can do at this point. If they can't get Luke Fickell, I don't know if they're going to be able to bring in a head coach. Scott Frost might have killed this program, at least for the foreseeable future. And I don't know. That's pretty much all. Do you have anything else?
I think that's it. I think we touched on about all of it. People know our opinions on Nebraska and Scott Frost.
Yeah. I think we've covered about everything. So now I'm going to go ahead and, let you guys that are watching this video, please leave down below in the comments what you think about the situation. I know there's probably going to be some Nebraska fans. I'm not actually, for the first time, I'm not expecting a lot of controversy on this topic. I think a lot of people are all going to be in agreement on what they think and what they think should happen. But I am curious about what y'all think Nebraska's future is looking like in terms of head coaching. Are there some head coaches in the group of 5 that I don't know about that, Nebraska could bring in? I know someone out there knows, so please let us know down below in the comment section what you think about that. Thank you guys for the recent support you've been showing on our videos. Our preview and predictions for the Week 1 games have been doing tremendous, and we're thankful. We're very thankful to have y'all watching and subscribing and leaving comments and all that. And that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one.